ANA eLearning Academy is brought to you by CDN Graysheet, a trusted source of rare coin and currency valuations since 1963.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for the ANA eLearning Academy. The ANA would like to thank our partner Graysheet for their support of the eLearning Academy. Today we have our very own Sam Gelberd, who will be presenting on Oh No It Ain't. You will be muted for this presentation, so please put any questions that you have in the Q&A or the chat box, and I will read them to Sam at the end of his presentation. And without further ado, here is Sam.
Well, thank you, Logan. Appreciate the intro. Morning or afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Thanks for joining us today for a presentation of Oh No It Ain't. And of course, this is not a title that I came up with originally. It is lovingly borrowed from the organization Coneca. If you're not familiar with them, if you are not an error or die variety collector, please check out their website, conecaonline.org. Great information there. Oh No It Ain't was a feature they had about people who thought they had error coins but weren't really errors, and that's really kind of what we're going to be discussing today. I'm going to be going over the basics of what a real error coin is and what damage is on a coin, and the difference between the two of them. We'll be reviewing a concept called PMD, or post mint damage. Very important to understanding what a real error coin is. And we'll also be looking at plenty of both so that you know the difference, real error coins and just damaged pieces. So we'll be going relatively quick through a lot of slides, so please bear with me. And of course, as Logan said earlier, if you have any questions, please hold them to the end. We will address them all. The good news is it's not a traditional money talks like we would have at one of our shows where we only have about 45 minutes. So we go a little bit longer than that today. So if you look at the photos there, you will notice two brand new mint condition items from 1964, a Roosevelt dime and a Ford Comet, which was the first car my parents had that I remember when I was a little kid. Beautiful car, absolutely gorgeous, but these are both as issued from the factory. At the ANA, we get a lot of phone calls all the time, people who think they may have error coins. And it's interesting because, you can look at certain cars and you might know, well, that's not how it left the factory. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can tell that these have been altered somewhat since leaving. May use numismatic terms that you can relate. Of course, I think the top right there, that Comet actually would probably come back from a grading company as graffitied, details graded. The one at the bottom looks like it has some lamination issues going on. Here's another picture, again, with the mint condition, or maybe a nice AU Comet from 64, and then a 61 Comet with what looks like an indent error in the front. And it's interesting too, because a lot of people will submit coins to us, or have questions. They'll send emails and say, maybe if you just look at it from a different angle, you'll see what the real error is. Looking at this card from different angles, it still just looks damaged. And a lot of times people don't always like to acknowledge that, it's damaged. You can see on these cards right here, on the top left, you've got original surfaces. Top right, that red Comet looks like it's got a rim ding. Down at the bottom, you've got one that looks like it may be going through NCS or new car services. Being restored. That one's been dipped heavily for sure. Probably try and do some retoning on it. The one in the bottom right there definitely has original toning. You might call that rust when it comes to cars. So two nice mint condition items right there. You can definitely tell when a car doesn't look like it is as it left the factory. But why is it with coins? A lot of times people will look at certain things and they think, no, that's an error. I mean, if you look at the ones on the screen right here, other than the one in the top left, these are all damaged coins. Now, most of us watching today are coin people, so you're probably familiar with the fact that these are damaged coins. And we'll go over some of these later and talk about certain types of damage and how it happens. Now, if you look right here, these are genuine error coins on the right-hand side of the screen, as issued from the factory. They don't like to let them out like that, but sometimes it happens. So again, yeah, you've got strike-through errors right here. But again, a lot of times people just, when they see coins that are damaged, think, oh no, it's got to be an error. When we see a car, we know, oh no, that is damaged. The issue, a big fancy word of the day for y'all, Peridolia. It's this imagined perception of a pattern or meaning where it does not really exist. And you can see some of the examples right on here. You know, you might see a face in a grilled cheese sandwich or bathroom tiles, all other sorts of things. You know, we look at them and we see what we want to sometimes, especially when it comes to coins. A lot of times people err on the side of, I'm a millionaire. You know, I found this thing. It looks really rare. Therefore, it's valuable. Not always the case. Now, of course, if you're familiar with the Statehood Quarters, the Statehood Quarter series, this one was issued for the New Hampshire quarter, I believe in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, that is no longer standing. If you go to, I believe it's Franconia Notch State Park in New Hampshire, it's no longer there. But for the longest time, many people for many, many centuries thought, well, that's got to be a face there. It's the old man of the mountain. Is it really a face? Is there really a face on that garage door if you look carefully? Are they just shadows from trees? What about that van right there, that indent? Does it look like just a dent, or maybe it's two faces kissing? Some people might look at that plant on the right and see, hey, you're number one, but then they may see another finger as well. So it all depends on your perception. And of course, one of the coolest looking clouds ever, Godzilla. So when you look at the coins that you see on the screen here, do you see maybe an error or something wrong? Did you just see two little lines there between the 1 and the 9? Because for a while, some of us in the error and variety community thought this might be what we call an over mint mark. We thought that maybe remnants of a San Francisco mint mark. I mean, look at it really carefully. You've got the color picture, you've got the black and white photo. I mean, if you look at anything long enough, who knows what you might start to see. We thought this may have been a genuine over mint mark for a while, but it has been debunked or declassified over the years. And when you talk about error coins, I'm going to go, usually if you watch my webinar called The Modern Minting Process, or if you, of course, if you take the class at our summer seminar with Dr. James Wiles, you go into a lot more detail with this, but I do need to do a bit of an overview of error coins so you can really understand. You have to understand how coins are made, so you can first understand that. Then you can really understand how they are mismade or made incorrectly, errors. So if you look on the screen, Alan Herbert, great error die variety collector and specialist researcher, came up with the PDS system to classify error and die variety coins. Of course, PDS, easy for us to remember, is Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. But when you talk about error or die variety coins, especially errors, you have to think of the three main points where something could go wrong. Either problems with the planchet, problems with the die or dies that strike the coin, or of course the actual striking process. Sometimes you get combinations of one or all of two or three of them, but we will look at what a real error or a die variety coin is in just a moment here. So like we said before, you can have issues with one, two of those, or all three of these things, issues with planchet, die, or strike. So planchet issues, we'll run through this pretty quick and see some of the ones on the screen there. Some of the issues that you may experience with dies. You get clashes, they can be mismatched. And of course, striking issues. That's where a lot of the problems may arise. When you have errors, that's when everything all comes together in the striking chamber. So, of course, take the modern minting process. If you already have, or if you know about this, this should make sense to you. It's a little tricky to explain right now, but understand that, you know, it's not just the original hub, the master that's used to strike coins, they make working dies. And a lot of times in the process, things don't always transfer and things could go wrong. And that's why we can get errors or die varieties. So this, of course, is a real simplified view of the modern minting process. How coins start off as just strips of metal, get blanked, get cleaned, get prepared, get struck, and then inspected and counted. That was about the 10-second version of an over 2-hour class, well, technically a class that would take about 4 days during summer seminar. So let's talk about some of the issues you can have with planchets. So first of all, a planchet or a blank, what is the difference? On the left-hand side of your screen, that is a blank, just a disc of metal as it was punched out of a sheet. On the right-hand side, you might notice a upset rim, or it's a little bit raised toward the edges. That is a planchet. We try to strike coins on planchets, not blanks. So sometimes you get what is called a clipped planchet, where sometimes the metal gets well, when a coin blank is punched out, sometimes it overlaps an already punched hole. So that's why you get something like this. It could happen in a couple places on a coin. I've seen triple and quadruple clipped planchets. There are ways to authenticate this. Of course, if you're familiar with something called the Blakesley effect, where on the opposite side of a clip, you'll see a bit of a flatter rim. A little bit tricky to get into right now for this talk, but take our modern minting process course and you'll understand more. So this is a really fun error, a ragged clipped planchet, where it's right from the edge of a sheet of metal. Here's a better way of showing you how that happens, where they try and squeeze just one more blank out of a strip of metal there, but wasn't enough to make 100% of a coin. A little bit tougher of an error to come by and very dramatic. Speaking of dramatic errors, this is a wrong metal or wrong planchet coin. This is a Indian head cent that was mistakenly struck on a planchet for a $2.50 gold piece. Very hard to come by. This, of course, is another Indian head cent that was struck over a barber dime. Some people might classify that as an 11-cent piece. Kind of cool. Wrong stock errors. Believe it or not, I actually found one of these in a 1970 mint set. You can still find these actually in mint sets, I guess. I found one years ago, but stupidly cracked it out and got it slabbed. But that was okay. It came back as a 65 and sold it and did okay. But this is a quarter that was actually struck on stock that was rolled to the thickness of a dime. Not really struck on a dime planchet, but struck on regular stock that was rolled to the thickness of a dime. So that's why they call it a wrong stock error. Pretty cool. You probably won't find them in your change, but look for them in mint sets. These are what they call woodies. Sometimes the alloy in metal is not always melted homogeneously, so you get streaks and it kind of has a wood grain appearance. Kind of cool. You see it on cents, probably from about 100 years ago, give or take, when it seems like you find a lot of those. And of course, during World War II, the experimental alloys that we were using, or relatively new alloys, to make our wartime composition nickels, a lot of laminations occurred with those. So you see some really dramatic, what look like cracks a lot of times, or splits or peels on war nickels. There's a more dramatic one you can see on a 20-cent piece there on the right side of the screen. It's what they call a clamshell lamination. Really cool. If you have one of those, if you ever find a clamshell lamination, don't split it all the way open. Don't peel it all the way apart. Has more value while it's intact. And of course, sometimes pieces of metal just kind of can flake off of a planchet and sometimes be struck, or it can happen after the strike. More common with our statehood quarters, sometimes they're missing layers. With our quarters, of course, it's a clad sandwich. You've got a pure copper core and then layers of copper nickel sandwiching those, and sometimes they can peel away if they're not completely put together under a lot of intense pressure. They're usually forced together under intense pressure through a series of rollers. Now, some of the issues you can get with the dies, these tend to be more what we call die varieties, not so much errors. We'll run through some of these pretty quick. So it's not really an error, but kind of a die variety. See a Lincoln Memorial cent with what we call a clash, where part of when the dies came together in the striking press, there was no blank between them. So you get some image transfer from one die to another. With the Lincoln Memorial cents, affectionate term people would call those clashes are prisoner pennies. Kind of cool. With the Ben Franklin $50 that you see right there, if you look right in front of his mouth, you see remnants of the eagle on the back. Here's what they call an overlay. You can see how the dies would line up without anything in between them. So what you're seeing on the right there are the remnants of the eagle's feathers that kind of transferred right in front of Ben Franklin's mouth. Some people will call these Bugs Bunny $50 for that reason. Happens on a few different years, but 1955 is the most common one for those, most popular. Die chips and breaks, not really significant errors, but we do get a lot of people who ask us about those here. They don't really add much value. I remember when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, I'd see coin magazines that would show what they call buy errors, and they'd or buy break errors, and they'd sell for a few dollars a piece, but they're pretty common on a lot of wheat cents, especially from the 1950s, where you'll see like a break in between the B and E of Liberty, and it looks like an I in between there. I mean, those breaks could happen at any point in between the letters, as you could see there. Don't really add a lot of value. I don't think anyone should pay a premium for them. Pretty common. Die cracks are pretty cool. Look like lightning bolts going across sometimes. Just the die steel starts to wear out, or maybe it wasn't hardened enough. So you get those that show up on coins every now and then. Believe Dr. Wiles, who teaches the modern minting process course, said that you have to have a minimum of 3 die cracks in order for it to be considered a shattered die. So just for that classification. Cuds are pretty cool when you have major die breaks that occur near the rim of a coin, and kind of obscures part of the design. And you can tell by looking at the reverse that where the void was on the obverse, the reverse couldn't strike all the way up. So it's a good way to authenticate one of these kind of errors, affectionately referred to as cuds. It kind of looks like a cud a cow was chewing on and just kind of fell out and landed on a coin. Here's a major cud. Love this coin. I would not turn that one down in my collection for sure. Beautiful coin. And you can see on the reverse that it just didn't have room to strike all the way up, but the obverse where the die shattered, it just kind of leaves this weird design on there. Pretty dramatic, pretty cool. Die gouges can happen where sometimes maybe a tool accidentally scrapes or really cuts deep into a die. What they call the tail bar CC dollar in the Morgan dollar series from 1890. There's a close-up of it right in the middle there. Pretty interesting die gouge. It's pretty popular among Morgan dollar collectors. Maybe kind of hard to notice on these, but if you look, you might notice these die gouges, what they call the low leaf and the high leaf varieties of the Wisconsin quarters. Jury is still out whether or not these were intentional or not, but they are they're classified as error coins, or varieties rather. Filled dies, you have to understand at the mint, a lot of times it is a dirty, noisy, nasty workshop. A lot of times grease and dirt, mint, other things can just get caught in the recesses of dies, and it doesn't allow for the entire design to strike up. So part of the design may be struck really well, while the rest of it may be partially there or completely missing. And sometimes that junk that's in the dies can actually just fall right out and land on a planchet to be struck. and can kind of get impressed into the next coin that's struck from it. So you can see that you have those kind of lightly incuse designs there on these coins. You have a part of the D from the mint mark. Actually, that's the D from God right here, just based on the size of it. And you can see where the 9 fell out on this Mexican 1 peso right here. You can see really big, that remnant of a 9 that was from Greece that was in the 9 beforehand. Sometimes dies get over polished, and these make for some very popular die varieties. Ask any Lincoln cent collector or Buffalo nickel collector if these 2 coins on the screen are of any interest to them. The Philadelphia Mint did not strike Lincoln cents in 1922. They only made them in Denver that year. But a little bit of overzealous polishing because of maybe to remove die clash remnants likely produced that die variety. And the same can be said possibly of the 3-legged Buffalo nickel from 1937 from the Denver Mint also. Missing its front leg right here. And then, of course, sometimes we'll get people who think that it's an error when they see what they think might be doubling on a die, but it's really just what they call die fatigue or mushiness because the die just has been in service for too long. So it's just an overused die. It's kind of gives this weird mushy appearance. It's kind of a false doubled appearance, not truly a doubled die. This quarter right here from 2016, that's a very dramatic overused die or some serious die fatigue. And this is proof to let you know that it doesn't always happen to both dies simultaneously. Sometimes at the mint, they may have one die in service longer than another. They may have to switch them out for some reason. So you can tell with this particular coin, the quarter, the obverse was a relatively serviceable die, or good working die, but then the reverse, that one should have been retired thousands of strikes ago before it ever struck this coin. And of course, if you get mismatched dies, you can get some really, really rare errors or varieties. This particular one, which is face value, really it says $1.25 on it, or $0.25 and $1. But these go for a lot of money whenever they are up for auction, usually for 6 figures. So be on the watch, though. There are a lot of counterfeits of these as well. So issues with strike, and again, we don't have time to really explore all of these because I want to show you some serious forms of damage before too long. But a lot of times people look at one coin or look at a coin and they'll notice one side looks like it's struck off center. It's just what we call misaligned dies where they weren't lined up perfectly, and it's usually something that you see with the obverse on a lot of coins. Unless it's really drastic where you're missing some of the design, they usually don't bring a premium. Would have to really be significant, like the dime that you see on the screen right here. There's one more example of a Lincoln cent with misaligned dies on the obverse, especially there. And then a true off-centered strike is where both sides are not struck centered. That's because the actual planchet itself was not centered in the coining chamber. It's a really nice one on a 1918 S Buffalo nickel. In that condition, though, you probably wouldn't want an error. Then this, of course, is a 1964 Kennedy half. That was struck off center. The only way you could really tell that this is from 1964, unless you were the person who maybe pulled it out of an original bag back when this was first discovered, would be to weigh it. That the weight would give you an indication. I believe 12.5 grams. And then sometimes you get a brockage errors. Really tricky to explain how a brockage could happen. Please take our modern minting process course to understand more how that happens. It's a really involved process. Some really dramatic errors on the screen here where coins can be struck through certain objects. The nickel that you see on the left was looks like it was struck through a piece of cloth, maybe some type of cloth a mint employee was using to clean something. Maybe it looked a part of a canvas bag. Who knows? Pretty cool design on there, though. On the right, you see a Lincoln cent that was struck through with a wire bristle from a brush. Some people might think that's a staple, but that doesn't really match most staple sizes. Definitely matches something that a wire brush that might be used to get rid of grease and other mint goop that would be caught in the recesses of dies. I guess bristle just landed, got caught in the striking chamber somehow, and actually got stuck into that Lincoln set. Very dramatic error. Very cool. And of course, there's another one where you can see where the obverse die was filled with mint goop. Sometimes you could refer to these as strike through errors. This was really struck through grease. Real quick, those of you that collect first strike coins understand that a first strike, by definition, is the very first piece of metal that is placed in between two working dies and then struck. True first strikes are usually adjustment strikes. They're used to test whether or not the pressure was effective on a coin in a coin press. True first strikes are usually discarded or melted down. They usually don't make it out of the mint. So collect first strike labeled coins if you want, but by definition, they're not. Multiple strike errors. This is what happens when a coin can get stuck in the press a couple of times. Very dramatic right here. It looks like the first strike was right on dead center, but then it received two subsequent strikes that were off center. Very, very cool. This is a double struck Lincoln cent. I'll show you some fake multiple strike errors toward the end of this presentation. Understand that if it's a genuine multiple strike error, both strikes will be showing positive or in relief. A lot of times people try to fake this, and you'll see that the letters are reversed and sunken into the coin. So if it's going to be a true multiple strike, it has to be raised. Unless, of course, we're talking about $2.50 and $5 gold Indians, but most of us don't deal with errors on those very often. Very dramatic multiple strike coins right here. The Lincoln cent from 1952. I just love looking at that. Just the whole way Lincoln's face looks. Very dramatic error. It was struck once and then tilted while it was still in the chamber or the collar, and wound up getting a second strike there. And it looks like I may have gotten a little third strike as well on the edge right there before it was actually ejected. Die caps, very, very tricky to get into right now, but of course, sometimes a planchet can get stuck to a die, and it can just keep get stuck on there and just keep on striking coins over and over. And this the actual planchet kind of will stretch over and over the die ever so slightly, and it kind of looks like a bottle cap. Very, very cool error. Broad strikes. This is an error that happens when the obverse and reverse die will come together, but there's no collar to hold them in place, so they kind of just squish out like a pancake. So pretty fun to find. You probably won't find them in your change because when they get sorted by armored car companies to go into rolls, they'd be too big for the denomination. So probably won't encounter them in circulation, but I never know. Keep a lookout in other dealer stocks. We already mentioned over-polished dies here, so we'll go over that. And like I said before, not real errors when you talk about buy breaks or the poor man's double die that's sometimes marketed to unsuspecting people. It's not a real error. It's just die fatigue. It happens a lot of times at certain dates from the 1950s. You see it a lot on 1955s because it's kind of hard to afford a true 1955 double die Lincoln cent. I mean, you can see that phenomenon going on here with 1953 as well. They really shouldn't add any value. It's not a real error. It's just coins that were struck by tired dies. If you want to collect them because you like them, go for it. But you may be in for a nasty shock when you go to try and sell them at some point. So now we're going to explore real post-mint damage. What real, not error coins look like, but real damaged coins look like. So on the screen right here, And I'll be honest with you all, some of these are actually taken directly from emails I've received here at the ANA when people thought, is this an error coin? And how much is it worth? Where can I sell it? Unfortunately, these scratches that you see on coins, if you're not familiar with this type of damage, it happens when automated coin wrap machines at the ends, when they crimp the rolls, they kind of put these huge scratches on the coins that are on the end. So if you see these huge circular scratches just inside the entire diameter of a coin, you usually see it on just one side. Sometimes you see it on both, but usually just restricted to one. Not an error, it's just damage. Usually the coins are just worth face value, or their bullion value after that, if they're made of silver. Some other severely scratched coins right here. The one on the left, I think probably happened. Someone was just playing around, had too much time on their hands, and decided to have a little bit of fun with the reverse of that Lincoln cent. This poor nickel, maybe it was shot with a BB gun. At any rate, it did not leave the mint looking like that. There's nothing in the modern minting process that could have produced something that looks like that as an error. Sometimes we'll get people who will ask us about coins that look a lot like this, and it looks like maybe someone just kind of scraped it against a sidewalk or took a belt sander to it, exposing the zinc core that's underneath. But at any rate, not an error, did not happen at the mint. Sometimes you find things that are in parking lots that have been run over by cars. Sometimes people think it's a lot of fun to smash coins on railroad tracks. Of course, to keep kids safe, a lot of times you're always told, no, don't do it. You know, you can actually derail a train. If you could derail a train just with a coin, that would be one heck of a trick. Don't think it's possible, but still, kids, stay off the tracks. Understand that a lot of times coins were smashed on railroad tracks for a real reason. For example, when the trains carrying, for example, Abraham Lincoln's corpse after he was assassinated, his body was carried from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois by train. A lot of people, to commemorate this event, when the train was going by, before it actually passed by them, they would put a coin on the track as a memento of this, coin was smashed or flattened by the train that was carrying President Lincoln's body. Case in point, you can see right here, this was a cent, probably an Indian head cent. Yep, you can still see kind of a faint Indian head design on the reverse, very lightly. But this was smashed by the train that carried President McKinley's body after he was shot in Buffalo, New York, I believe. And then some other coins that have clearly been altered to look like they might be errors. Canadian cents from 1934 did not have multiple sides on them. Even the sides are not even exactly even. They're a little bit different. So again, maybe someone with too much time on their hands or trying to pass it off as an error coin to someone who didn't know any better. A lot of times we'll see coins like this come out of dryers. They get caught in between the drum of a clothes drying machine, and the intense heat and all that rolling over and over again kind of can roll the edges in a little bit. So it could be with silver coins like the Franklin $50 you see there, where maybe someone was trying to make a piece of jewelry and just taking a spoon and repeatedly banging the edge over and over again, trying to at some point perhaps make a ring. You can see right here, there's another example of a dime or two dimes that had come out of clothes dryers. Yeah, it kind of just rolls in. The edges kind of roll in on themselves. Kind of strange how that happens. Not sure if any of you want to guess how these coins may have gotten so worn. Understand, $50 and Eisenhower dollars don't really circulate very widely. But of course, Eisenhower dollars were really made to help the interests of casinos, especially in Las Vegas in the 70s. So these coins a lot of times affectionately referred to as Vegas coins or sometimes Vegas dollars. If you look a lot of times, you'll see a lot of hits all over both surfaces. And more often than not, the reeds on the edges have also been crushed over just repeatedly smacking into other coins over and over again. This one, 97p half dollar, actually looks like it was struck on off center. It was actually struck off center too, man. Shame that that one got caught in a slot machine. That would have been a nice little off center error for someone. Sometimes we'll see people who will send us pictures of a coin where they think, I've got a really flat rim on a Lincoln cent, or there are 2 rims on my coin. How much is it worth? Well, about 1 cent, or maybe about 3 cents in copper. Copper prices are up right now. But these usually happen because they were encased. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen an Indian head cent that is in an encasement. Sometimes coins are popped out of those, and you can tell by the one on the right that you see right there that that's what they look like when they come out. It's not an error, it's just damage. The coin's usually just worth its melt or face value. Counter stamps on coins are pretty popular, especially around the United States bicentennial in 1976. You'll see a lot of coins that get stamped with outlines of states, sometimes with John F. Kennedy. Of course, there was some that I remember seeing in the 1980s and the late 70s that were marketed to kids or other people. The conspiracies and the ties between the Lincoln assassination and the Kennedy assassination would be on a big card and would have one of these coins at the very top there where it had Kennedy kind of facing Lincoln there. Sometimes you see Freemason pennies where it's stamped with the square and miter from the Freemason symbol there. And of course, other counter stamps, sometimes coins are just remonetized over time. The one that you see right here is a famous counterfeit, if you're an ancient coin collector. Those of you that like slab coins, that one that you could tell right over here was cacked rather aggressively, unfortunately. Someone cacked that one pretty hard. And then painted, plated, or enameled coins. Only the one on the top right, the Year of the Dragon, that Chinese zodiac coin, that's the only one that was released with the paint on it. A lot of these other coins you see right here are just aftermarket. It was really popular to do things in the Victorian era to enamel certain coins. These are pretty. But then you see a quarter right up here with this blue paint. A lot of times these get referred to as jukebox coins, where especially in the 50s and 60s when drive-ins were pretty popular, you would get servers or waitresses at that time would paint, you maybe using just their nail polish, would paint a couple of quarters that they would use to put in the jukebox to really, get the mood, elevated, and get, that party atmosphere. And when people are sitting there, they are having a good time eating and having, the music play. When the music stops, well, then they have to reach into their own pocket and start feeding the jukebox with quarters. So at the end of the week or at the end of their shift, the boss might open up the jukebox and all the ones that were painted, give them back to the waitresses so they can reuse them again and, they'll start the whole process over. So a lot of times we'll get inquiries at the ANA where people will say, I've got extra metal on a coin. Well, you can tell right here, especially with this, the Lincoln cent you see right here on the left side of your screen, there's a little bit of clear glue that's on the top of that. You can tell that someone probably laid another Lincoln cent on top of that one. You can still see part of a backward image, but you can still see the actual design of like the back of Lincoln and the back of his head on that one. So it's not a real error. You can probably just peel that glue off, maybe even with your fingernail. Yeah, so be really careful of things you suspect that might be errors when you see things that might have lacquer or tape or glue on. A lot of times that can be removed carefully by rolling a Q-tip soaked in acetone. Sometimes you'll see coins with stickers on them. Sorry, go back right now. If you do see old silver dollars with stickers, I strongly suggest not removing them. because there are a lot of collectors, even token collectors, that are really into those. So I don't suggest removing those, not really damaged. And you'll see sometimes modern coins like the golden dollars with a couple former presidents in the corner right here. They did not leave them mint like that. It is a post-mint alteration. Some people like collecting them. Some people think, well, it was altered, so there's no additional value. Again, it's a hobby. You can collect what you like. So these coins right here, sometimes people think really dark nickels or dark dimes might be worth more. There's a lot of hype online about Black Beauty coins, and people think, well, any dark nickel, that's a Black Beauty and it's worth a lot of money. Where can I sell it? Unfortunately, not always the case. It's usually environmental damage. You can see right here that poor Lincoln sent the top center definitely got eaten away by some kind of acid, serious corrosion. A lot of times you get what's called zinc rot, where zinc, it's much more much more susceptible to damage than even copper. So sometimes the zinc can actually kind of rot from the inside out. Pretty strange phenomenon. And of course, you get artificial toned coins. I think it would be really something if you could get a genuinely toned coin with a heart inside of another heart on a American silver eagle. Pretty cool. I'm not sure that would ever happen in nature. This is actually a half dime from the A&A Money Museum collection. So yeah, if you are an A&A member, this is part of our part of your collection. Really pretty genuine toning. The colors kind of move one into the next based on the colors of the rainbow. It's one way of authenticating genuine toning. Some other genuinely toned coins right here on copper and then on zinc. Let you guys take a look at this one for a second to see if you think that that is a genuine or fake toned coin. That is real, dramatic, almost electric neon toning on a Morgan dollar that probably sat in a bank vault for a long, long time, or a treasury vault. And the canvas bag and other gases and impurities in the air over time just help produce these gorgeous colors on the front of that one. So sometimes we'll get people who will send us pictures of coins that are really, really thin and maybe smaller than they should be. A lot of times what happens is you can leave a coin sitting in some kind of caustic solution or acid, and it eats away at the metal. A lot of times people will then spend these coins, and then other people will ask us about them thinking it's got to be an error. It's smaller and a lot of the design is missing. But unfortunately, it's just something that is just post-mint damaged. Sometimes people will use certain acids, something that was popular for many years called nicodate, where you can actually use acid to eat away at part of the surface where buffalo nickel date was, and it kind of eats away, and you can kind of make out the date using that. Understand that by doing that, you have a already damaged coin, but again, the coin was already damaged and you couldn't see the date, right? This, of course, was something that probably survived a fire at some point, and of course, the coins all melted together. Looks like the quarter was in 1964. It looks like these were probably some silver coins. May have been in someone's safe during a house fire, or maybe it was someone who just got bored and took a blowtorch to their coins. Who knows? So you can get some serious post-mint damage. Things that confuse people a lot is when they see two-headed or two-tailed quarters or nickels. It is very uncommon for a genuine error to happen in that fashion. There have only really been about 2 or 3 coins ever known that have ever left the U.S. Mint that were a genuine double obverse or double reverse coins. A lot of times it's what they call a magician's coin, where 2 coins are manipulated to fit together. Yeah, unfortunately, they are worth some money to collectors. Some of them are pretty cool. Some of the ones like the $50 that you see right here, you might see things like this on display at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Of course, there's another story out there about one kid who was on a paper route and found a nickel that had been hollowed out that had been used by spies, I think, in the 1950s. Pretty cool stuff if you find these kind of coins, magician's coins, or sometimes, spy coins, they're called. Worth a little bit more than just face value, though. So kind of cool. This quarter right here was manipulated drastically. Even the edge, if you look, you can see in the middle right here, this edge was kind of manipulated so you can put a small rubber band on it. And it kind of looks like you could bend a quarter in half. Kind of cool. When I was a kid, I had a $50. I wish I still had it. It was cut in 3 pieces and it had a rubber band on the outside of it. It looked like you could bend a $50. When I was talking earlier about how you can have a fake double struck coin, this is a really good example of it right here. It's what they call a sandwich coin. Not really a real error. Oh no, it ain't. Where people will put 2 coins together and squeeze them under intense pressure, and the telltale sign of that is that the secondary image is incuse and it's backwards. Again, a genuine double struck coin, you would see both sides looking. They would read correctly from right to left, or from left to right, and it would be in relief. You can see on the Lincoln cent on the right hand side from 1990, where someone put a reverse against the obverse of that coin, squeezed it under intense pressure, and that's why E pluribus unum is backwards, as well as some of the columns from the Lincoln Memorial. So, in closing, because people say, man, how do you find certain errors? How do you do all this kind of stuff? How do you get so lucky finding certain coins? Understand that if you read and research and you really focus on education, the more you learn, the more lucky you will be, that you will actually have better chances of finding something significant when those opportunities arise. So as a numismatic educator, on behalf of the ANA, please keep studying, keep looking anytime you have questions about coins. And actually, Logan, I guess now would be a pretty good time where if anyone did have any questions, we could address those.
Yeah, so far we have one. So if you guys have any more, please put them in the Q&A in the chat, and I will read them to Sam. The first one is, do you think that deep cameo $50 can be created with microdental laser?
Yes, absolutely. Artificial frosting is a pretty big deal. If you come out for a summer seminar, Brian Silliman and I think with Bob Campbell, a lot of times they will do a mini seminar on how to detect artificially frosted and artificially toned coins. And there are some people who are pretty adept at adding what looks like real frost. But if you know what to look for, it's pretty easy to spot. So definitely take their class on there. Shameless plug for summer seminar. Sorry about that.
Next year.
Yeah. I hope.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Yeah. We already have all of or most of the summer seminar virtual replacements up on our website on a summer seminar landing page, as well as the eLearning page. So you guys can go ahead and register for those as well.
I think I'm actually doing a modern minting process again this time too. Cool. So at the end of this month, maybe in a few weeks, I'll see y'all again. And we'll go into much more depth. You'll see a lot of these same pictures, and we'll take a much more in-depth look at the entire minting process.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Okay, well, let me see one. No more questions. So,
is that? Oh, wait. Did we?
It just says excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you from a YN who I know is gonna be hitting me up pretty soon for $25. Cool, thanks, Zach. Oh, wait, in the chat, did we have something?
No, just talking about me.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
All right. Do you have anything else to add before I go ahead and close this out?
No, just thank you all for giving us an hour of your time today. About an hour. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all when I talk about the modern minting process in a few weeks.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today for Sam's presentation. Please join us. Like I said, we're going to be having summer seminar replacements coming up here in a few weeks. So please register for those. Again, we'd like to thank Graysheet for their support of our eLearning Academy and making this possible for all of you to view. And with that, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. Have a great day.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Take care.